excited to introduce our next speaker, Dan Bongino. I just spoke with him a few minutes out in the hallway, and he's as great as I had envisioned from some of the YouTube videos and interviews and rallies that I've seen him present and speak. And this is some real-world experience, which is what initially caught my attention. A little bit about Dan. He began his career at the New York Police Department in 1995. He saw firsthand the devastation of years of failed social policy and experimentation. He worked full-time and went on to get his bachelor's and master's degree in psychology. He then joined the United States Secret Service in 1999 as special agent and graduated as special agent from Secret Service Training Academy with honors. During his tenure as special agent, Dan completed his second graduate degree in Master's of Business Administration. He is a small business owner, and he is currently a candidate for Maryland's 6th Congressional District. With his experience in the Secret Service, in the New York Police Department, and being willing to take that experience, that information, and go public to make a run to continue serving his country, I think we are in for a treat. So please welcome Dan Bongino.
A little tired? It's been a long day for you? Thank you so much for having me. My entire campaign, as we were talking about in the hallway, is run by women. It always has been. I was raised by a single mother, so I know who butters the bread. I've smartened up. My second campaign, we got rid of all the guys, so I am now the only one left. Really? No. And in my state of Maryland, just so everybody here understands, the entire Republican Party is really effectively run by women. It is all good groups of women Republican groups. There's only one male Republican group in the entire state. I think it has like 2 members. So everybody, I'm quite familiar with the power of women activists. So thank you very much. And I know I see a lot of familiar faces here. I wanted to talk today, based on my experience and what I saw, why I left, with the Secret Service being embedded in the cesspool of Washington, D.C., why I left, why I walked away, and why I think we're constantly, at least with the soccer mom crowd, not necessarily the people in this room who are activists and pay attention to politics, but we're evaluating the fight we're in, and we're not evaluating the right fight. We're getting lost in granular arguments. That's where the left beats us all the time, but we're losing the larger umbrella view. I'd like to dig into that a little bit and tell you what I saw, what I wanted to change, and really where I think the future is. Now listen, ladies and gentlemen in the room, I don't think anybody here is under any illusions that the last election cycle for us was a good one. I mean, am I wrong? Please raise your hand if you think the conservative, libertarian, small government movement had a great cycle last time. It was terrible. It was awful. I was the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate in Maryland. We got hit both ways. We had a wealthy independent in our race. We got hurt bad. No one helped us. There was really no architecture on the Republican side to come back and fight back for us. But we finished second. Great. There's no silver medals, in politics. Ladies, there's 1 seat in the Senate, and my blood didn't win. So we lost. But it wasn't all bad. It wasn't. The results were terrible. But the future, I constantly hear this apocalyptic vision of, the party's gone. And the way they talk about people, they put them in these inconvenient little boxes. You would think the conservative movement is absolutely finished. The Hispanic vote, the young female vote, the black vote, the Martian vote. They talk about people in these artificial boxes. And you would think the entire conservative, and I would argue libertarian small government movement as well, is completely finished. That's all nonsense. They said the same thing about Reagan. Ronald Reagan in 1984 won Maryland? He won every single state but one. You know what that state was? Minnesota. Mondale's home state. You know what he lost by? 3,000 votes. And you know why he lost? Because he didn't go to Minnesota because he didn't want to feel bad. It's just a true story. You ask people in the administration writing for the Secret Service. They stayed out of Minnesota. They want to give Mondale at least his home state. But it's a true story. The point is, folks, there is when you get the right voice to sell the conservative limited government message, we win. We don't have a message problem in the party. We don't. We have a marketing problem. You're under the illusion out there because the mainstream media wants you to believe we have a message problem, so you change the message. They steal our message all the time, run on it, and win. I can prove it to you, right? Barack Obama. I'm going to cut middle class taxes. That's a liberal, progressive campaign platform? Really? Since when? Did he do it? Of course not. You can keep your doctor. We're going to reduce the cost of healthcare. We're going to increase competition. These are all lines he said. So if our message is such, education, it's a priority for me. Nothing he said was true. But if we have a message problem, how come he stole our message and won? We have a messenger problem. We do. And that's why I thought it was so important to fly out, because we have a messenger problem with females 18 to 24. We're getting our butts kicked. Do you know how many people I would stop, young women at the metro stop and talk to them? And the first question out of their mouths, where do you stand on the social issues? Well, folks, I'm pro-life. But here's the great, that was it, they were done. But here's the great irony. Here's how bad the Democrats have annihilated us in this issue. One, most of those females, 18 to 24, will never get a job, so none of that will matter. None of that. They won't even forget about birth control. They won't even be able to put oatmeal on the table. But the great irony of this whole thing is the Democrats have put this so bad in this issue that there's a large portion of the Democratic Party in Maryland, especially the black community, that's pro-life. So I said, let me get this straight. That's the defining characteristic for us, but not for them. So you won't get a job. You will support these ridiculous tax and spend policies that will bankrupt you, any kids you may have, your generation, empty your checkbook, all over a social issue that, frankly, both parties have people on the same pro-life side. Does that make any sense to you? No, Republicans hate women. Okay, I mean, you only have a minute or two at the metro stop. You can't stop it. But we kept coming back. So we have a messenger problem. Now we have a messenger problem because here it is. We get lost, folks, in the big umbrella argument is being swept away in these tiny little granular arguments. I'm going to prove it to you, okay? The economy. Everybody knows, any sound economist was not absent Paul Krugman, the psychotic left, the ideological economist. Everybody understands that there is a pro-growth tax rate on that Laffer curve, right? That will sponsor growth because you can always spend your money better than the government. Everybody understands that, right? And the great irony is we're losing the economic umbrella argument under the doctrine of what? Fairness. It's unfair to have the rich pay less. But I ask you this. Are the rich really paying less? No, of course not. If you were to argue for the fairest tax system out there, a fair tax or a flat tax, the irony would be that 15% of 10 million is a whole lot more than 15% of 50,000. But the Democrats can't seem to get that basic math, so they argue for a progressive tax system with increasingly higher tax rates, knowing very well that the math means that the rich, as their tax rates go up, don't pay more, they pay less. Because what happens? Someone needs to get reelected on the Democratic side. And this is what you see when you work in the cesspool of Washington, D.C. So they come in and they say, I can't afford 39.6 top marginal tax rate. I can't afford a 35% corporate tax rate. So, Senator, Democrat, Republicans too. They're not, some of these guys aren't our friends either, men and women on that side.
Amen.
I need you, that's true, I need you to give me a tax break for my white t-shirt company. And then the black t-shirt company comes in, and then the green t-shirt company comes in. And by the time they're done, all those rich people who own all those t-shirt companies, ironically enough, are not paying 39.6, which is our top marginal tax rate. They're paying probably closer to 15%. And what do the Democrats do? They turn it around and blame it on us. You guys did this. The rich aren't paying their fair share. What's my point on this? My point on this is that conservative policies are fair and do take care of the little guy. But you never hear that. We lost this election when you look at the exit poll data, basically on one big Wheaties box message. And one thing I learned about politics is if you're messaging someone and it can't fit on a Wheaties box, you're wrong. You're explaining way too much. If you're explaining, you're losing. We won one message. Obama won on one message. You know what the message was? The rich guy screwed you. Think about it. Look at every one of his commercials. Look at the guy who died of cancer even though his wife had insurance, right? Look at all of those cases, the vulture capital. Mitt Romney doesn't pay his taxes. Why do you think they did all this? I worked with these guys. If you think for a second anything coming out of this White House is done by chance, you are wrong. It was done because the rich guy screwed you. And what was our message back? The Laffer curve. If you're asking what the Laffer curve is, there you go. I just proved my point. Because the general public was saying, huh? We were arguing back, well, instead of coming out and arguing the fallacy of all of this garbage about how these higher tax rates are actually causing you to pay more. A simple statement, that's not what we did. We tried to explain away in overly wonkish political terms to soccer moms who were just trying to feed their kids why Art Laffer was correct. And it failed. And it failed bad. Think about health care. Again, the larger umbrella, folks. It's not about health care, just like the tax debate for them is not about taxes. It's about economic control and manipulation. The Obamacare debate is not about health care. Does anybody in this room have any illusions otherwise? I mean it. Does anyone here really believe that when President Obama came in office, they instituted this Obamacare plan, all 70,000 plus pages, whatever it is, and they thought they were actually going to improve the quality and delivery of health care in the United States? If you believe that, I have a big bridge over in, it's the longest bridge in the world, and I'll sell it real cheap. A campaign donation, $25, it's your bridge. Folks, you are being manipulated. You're being manipulated by this administration. They are not telling you the truth. It's not about health care. How can you create a system? I can't even get into all of the medical device tax and the surcharge for $250,000 murders. Forget all that. You cannot create a system which the two tenets of it that are the worst and the most pernicious to our economy. We have community rating and guaranteed issue. Community rating. You have a healthcare system where, let's say you smoke, ride a motorcycle, never work out, live off Whoppers, don't sleep at night, and basically just don't take care of yourself at all. You do drugs. You have to pay and be offered the same rate as me. If I get up in the morning, work out, I eat my oatmeal, drink my 1% milk, go easy on the coffee. How is that? I mean, think about that. Think about that with car insurance, right? If they had a black box in your car and your average speed is 125 miles an hour, and mine is 55 on the highway, they say, no, he's got to pay the same thing as you would laugh. But do you think healthcare follows some mysterious rules of economics? Is healthcare any different? Of course not. So community rating doesn't work because it can't work. Because it simply doesn't make sense. And then to make it worse, why Obamacare failed. And remember, umbrella argument here, why this is not about healthcare, this is about control for them. Guaranteed issue. Now I not only have to offer you the same rate, but I have to guarantee you insurance whenever you want. With a penalty that's not as much as the insurance. Now either President Obama thinks the American people are really stupid and can't add, or this was designed to fail. You figure it out. Folks, the tax argument is not about taxes. I promise you, it's about economic control. You are dealing with a very dangerous administration right now. It may pain you to hear this, but I'm going to tell you anyway because I worked for 3 years. This is not the Clinton administration. I am a conservative, I have all kinds of problems, I'm not gonna go down their administration, but I'll tell you this, they knew when to dial it back. Remember, the era of big government's over, it's not a George W. Bush one, it's a Bill Clinton. I'm not defending him, but get my point. This administration is completely different. They are not arguing this tax argument because it's about taxes. They are arguing because it's about taking control over our economy. Sol makes the argument eloquently, conflict divisions, when he talks about the locus of control. It's a very, very dangerous path. Healthcare, same thing. Finally, the education front. This is not a small, I have a bunch of consultants we deal with, and some are good and some are bad, and I listen to everybody, I try to take it all in. But it's almost unanimous, they tell me, the issue doesn't hold up, leave it alone. It doesn't matter, I really don't care. It is the civil rights issue of our day, there's absolutely no question about it, none. And if you disagree, let me give you this quick little story. When you came in the door before, if I was standing at the door, and I said to you something to the effect of, most tall kids in Baltimore City go to a poor school, you'd look at me and say, who's this idiot at the door, what's he talking about? Random physical characteristic, height, goes to a public school, right? Well, let's change the random physical characteristic, none of which have anything to do with your intelligence. When you walked in the door, if I were to say, do you know most black kids in Baltimore City go to a poor school? You'd nod your head and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I just told you the same thing twice. Just change the physical character. One was complete idiocy, the second one made sense. You still think it's not the civil rights issue right now? How we have wiped out an entire generation of our minority youth who their America is not yours. When I was a police officer in New York City, it was a tough job. I remember I used to do 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. I remember sitting on a corner one night, and this young kid, he could have been more than 9 years old. He had to be 1/3. And I knew he lived in the project right next door, because I'd seen this kid. And I don't know, listen, I'm not getting into the parenting argument here with you. 1:30 in the morning is probably a little late for a 9-year-old. But I struck up a conversation with the kid, and I could not believe how, when I was asking him, what he wanted to do, and he didn't get the question, what do you mean, what do I want to do? What do you want to do? Like, what do you want to be when you get older? And he said, I want to be AZ. And I thought he said Jay-Z. And at the time, this was years ago, Jay-Z, the rapper, had just broke. And I thought, all right, it must be Jay-Z. He said, no, I said AZ. I said, who's AZ? Who's that? That's what I said, too. I'm like, who's AZ? So he showed me this little flyer of this local neighborhood kid who was like a rapper who I know had been arrested like 1,000 times. That was his dream. That's not your American dream. He has been completely left out. This country you live in is not his. And yet the consultant class will tell you that we've got issue 1. Folks, that's our issue. That's the conservative movement's issue. That's the libertarian movement's issue. That was Friedman's issue. School choice. That's not theirs. How does Barack Obama with a straight face get up in front of a group of people? Seriously. And claim to be in it for the little guy, while he wipes out an entire generation of wealth, family values, having a picket fence and the dog, even going to the movies? Their America is completely different. There are 20,000 public high schools in the country. 20,000, and just 2,000 are responsible for half the dropouts. If your skin is black, you have a 50% chance of sending your kid to one of those schools. Disgraceful. A national disgrace in the richest country on earth. Sad. It makes me sad because I was a product of school choice. I grew up above a bar, Glendale, Queens, on 64th Place in Brooklyn. Rap infested with a joint. Listened to a lot of Elton John and I had a jukebox downstairs. Kept me up. My only way out was a local Catholic school that was on as a charity case. That was it. Me and my 2 brothers made it out. Those other kids I grew up with never had a shot. You can forget the tax argument, the Obamacare, whatever. For now, I would argue to you that if we were going to lose a fight, if we had to, and you had to triage your battles, you lose those first 2 and win the 3rd, the country would still be better off. In our GDP, we could double it just by getting Baltimore City and big major urban areas up to educational standards and not, the only thing common about Common Core is the core is rotten, but nothing common given by the U.S. government is ever any good, so I was glad I bumped into that. But folks, education is a bigger issue. We are in an ideas economy. This phone that I have here is only valuable because of the idea. If you think for a second that phone is valuable because of the glass or the plastic, you are in the wrong room. We are in an ideas economy, and what makes an idea different than physical capital is what an idea can be used over and over and over and over. A tractor can't. Either you're using it or you're using it. That's it. But if the idea that a phone, a video recorder, an email device, a camera, and a music player could all go in a little box, folks, this idea was foreign 15 years ago. That is an idea used over and over to create enormous wealth. Those kids have none of those ideas. Vacuums. And we did it. We did it. So next time again, bigger argument. They lose us in the granular. Oh, Richard A. Less. Really? What's so fair about creating a system where people pay tax rates they can get around and a little guy gets screwed? What's so fair about the Obamacare system that's so devastating that boutique medicine for rich people send in and all the poor folks are going to go to government clinics? That's fair? You want to argue fair? Let's argue fair. Mr. President, stand up here. Let's argue fair and compassion. What's fair about your education system? Where kids that look like your kids, by the way, have no chance while my daughter talks about being a lawyer, doctor, and engineer. What's fair about that? How does this argument benefit me? How? My daughter's got a great public school. She's doing terrific. Why do you think I stood up in Baltimore City and talked about it? So you think it benefits me? Think I got a lot of votes up there? My kids don't go to school there. Because I passionately believe it. I want to leave you with this thought, folks, because, there's a lot of despair. Again, I told you in the beginning, everything's all over. Oh, the Hispanic vote. My wife's Hispanic. She's a first-generation immigrant from Colombia. She's in the IT field. She does web development. She's the best in the business. She's got the greatest story you've ever heard. I got news for you. They don't vote like robots because there's no they. There's no black vote. There's no Hispanic vote. There's a people vote. Allowing yourself to fall into the trap that the melanin component to someone's skin or where they were born makes them view the world different than you do is something we instilled in them. They weren't born with it. We made them do that because there's no them. Don't buy it. We lost the irreligious crowd, we lost the single crowd, and we lost the lower income crowd in the last election. But the path forward is clear. No one wants to stay that way. No one. Most people, as they get older and have children, find themselves in some kind of religious environment. Most people don't want to remain single, and most people don't want to stay in the lower income categories. What I'm telling you is we can win this fairness argument by exploding this economy using our principles, which is just putting money back in your hand. And once we do that, there's no future for them. Forget about us. But there's only power in right now. Now, this second. Now, you all showed up. This is obviously a different group, but not everybody does. Yesterday is over. It's done. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now. I don't know if you agree with his philosophy or not, but I'll tell you what, it's a damn good book. The movie playing in your mind is the past. It's over. We lost. Scrap it. It's just a movie. It doesn't exist. The future hasn't happened yet. It's a figment of your imagination. There is only power in this moment right now. And you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? We are in an epic battle for the locus of control of your liberty, being taken from you and putting with the anointed ones in D.C. But this is a huge battle. It is enormous. It is epic. You have to ask yourself right now, what are you doing to change the course of history? The future will take care of itself if you look where your feet are planted right now. When I lost my Senate campaign, it was tough. And I never write speeches. I just like to speak from them. I do keep a few notes in here because I didn't use any of this stuff. Put that away. But I didn't write a speech the night I lost. And I didn't know what to say. It was actually one of the first times me being a relatively loquacious New York fellow. I couldn't think of anything to say. And I got a page from a friend of mine, put this Bible passage, Timothy 4:7. Yeah, he said, you all ever read it? I fought the good fight. I've kept the faith. finish the race? Well, fight your good fight, whatever that fight is. Whether it means you tearing it up on Twitter, organizing a group, doing more summits, getting people out to vote. Finish the race. Don't stop. Don't quit. If we lose the next election, it's not done. And keep the faith, folks. Because this politics is ugly. I've seen it from both sides. It's a boxing match. It's not a golf game. What I mean by that is when you're golfing, someone asked me not too long ago, they said, well, what do I do? I'm frustrated. I want to give up. You can't give up. You don't have that choice. If it was a golf game, you could give up. When it starts to rain, you can walk off the golf course and nobody's going to care. You know what happens when you give up in a boxing match? The other guy's kicking your ass. And that's what they're doing right now. You can't give up. So finish the race. Keep the faith. I promise you, tomorrow's bright. There are some oral beers on the horizon to work on. So thanks for your time.